Hello everyone, this is Adnan with another video on VCP 6.7 training. So in this video we are going to explore VCSA, and in this series we created this architecture for VC with the ESXi host installed. So we installed one ESXi host and we installed a Windows server with Active Directory DNS. And in this video what we are going to do, and in the previous video we installed VCSA as well, and in this video we are going to configure VCSA. And this is our architecture. Here we have a Windows server ADDNS. This server has ADDNS. This is the IP address, and this is ESXi1. On ESXi1 we have VCSA installed as a appliance. So it is an appliance, so it is installed as a VM, and the IP address is this. We have two more ESXi hosts. Today we are going to add these ESXi hosts to VCSA, and we do have and we are managing all this infrastructure from this Windows server. So Windows Server 6.7, this is the Windows Server from which we are managing this. So in this video we are going to first of all verify VCSA services. We are going to see the two consoles, how we access VCSA, and I'm going to walk you through VCSA configuration. Then we are going to configure VCSA. We are going to create folder, data center, add ESXi host, and later we can connect this VCSA with Active Directory. So let's get started. So here, going back to our architecture, this is our architecture, this is the architecture, this is my DC, and this is the server. I would say if you have the same architecture installed, that will be excellent to follow this lab. And also I would suggest to set up the VMs in this manner. So you can basically move like these VMs here and here. So move Windows Server on this side and ESXi host on this side. So that will be easier for you to understand. So I'm gonna from DC we're not doing anything. DC is working. From this Windows server I'm gonna open Firefox, and from the Firefox first of all I'm gonna log into ESXi host. This ESXi host is being installed separately, so I'm gonna just refresh the screen. This ESXi, the ESXi host 1 has IP address 50, ESXi host has IP address 80, and the third one has IP address 195. So from this Windows server I am going to connect to ESXi host. Basically, why do I need to connect to ESXi host? Because we just need to see that if VCSA appliance is running. So the very first thing before you can verify VCSA, what you need to do, you need to make sure that this play sign is working with vCenter. So just go to vCenter virtual machine in ESXi host where you have installed VCSA, and down here there are other VMs as well. Down here this VM has this play sign. If this VM doesn't have a play sign, you can always just power this on and make sure, give it like 5-10 minutes to properly start, and then connect to VCSA. So we just made sure that this VM is working, this VM is running. Some normal common mistake that people do, that they try to connect to VCSA through IP address or through the web browser, but this VM is not working. This VM is, so always make sure that the VM is running and the screen is showing like this. So the screen is showing you like this is the IP address, this is like this is the IP address of VCSA. And if I click inside, here you can click Control Alt F1. So if you click on Alt F1 you can go into the command mode, and if you click Alt F2 then you can come to this mode where you can press F2 and you can make basic changes. But here you don't need to make any changes in this. So once VCSA is installed, completing stage 1 and stage 2, then you can basically verify this from the browser. Now from the browser what you need to do is there are two ways that you can connect to VCSA. One way is by using this port number. So one way, so for example your basic configuration, this is called a basic configuration console. So this is basically the port number. This is the port number here, and the IP address will remain the same, but when you connect to VCSA with IP address colon the port number, it will take you to this this basic configuration console. So I call this basic configuration console. On this console you can do some basic settings, make sure that the services are running, you can change the time setting, you can enable SSH. So, and the most important thing in this console is that you need to see that all the services are good, in good health, and also the SSO, which is single sign-on status, is running. So if this is so, then you can connect to VCSA. Here also you can see the basic, give you basic monitoring for CPU, disk, network usage on this. You can also have different type of access, the way you can connect to ESXi, you connect to this VCSA appliance, you can connect to DCLI, or you can connect to SSH. In another video I'm going to show you that. Here one more important thing is services. So in the services, all services should be running. So basically, if on summary screen, if you see everything is green, in good health, then you don't need to come to services. Otherwise, in services, if you have any issue with VCSA, you can always come to this console and go to services, and in here you can sort this, click on startup type. Here all the services that are set to automatic, basically these are services, and all the services that are set to automatic should be started. Here if you go down, there are some services that are disabled and some services are manual. If they are stopped, that's fine, but if the service is set to automatic, these all services should be started. Okay, so with that, we are going to now log in. So when we log in order to manage VCSA, I'm gonna copy this, just the IP address with the HTTP without the port number, and I'll open a new browser here and copy this address here. So make sure that you're going without the port number. It will take you to VCSA management console. Here click on vSphere. So on this console, it will take you to the where we basically manage VCSA, and here we need to log in as administrator at vSphere.local. So this is the username. You need to type this username, administrator at vSphere.local. Here is the password. So one more difference that you need to make sure that when you log in with the port number on this, here you log in with the root account. So root and the password of VCSA. But when you log into this console, the management console of VCSA, where most of your time will be spent as a VMware admin or virtualization admin, so you will log in with administrator at vSphere.local. So it will take few minutes to log in. So basically now you're logging into the management console of VCSA. So it took few moments, and you are logged in now. So here, this is the main console of VCSA. Now right here at the top, it will show who's the user that is logged in. So administrator at vSphere.local, and this is the help. Here is the search. You can search anything, any item within VCSA. This is the menu where you can move from one different services within VCSA. So you can go to host and cluster, you can go to VM and templates, storage, networking, and there are many other settings that we will be exploring in other videos as well. So this is one way of going through the menu. The second way of going through the menu is this. So this is the host and cluster. This is where you will see all of the hosts here. So the main purpose of VCSA is to manage all these ESXi hosts from one console. I mean, if you don't have VCSA, then you need to connect to each ESXi host separately, and separately, if you, I mean, with 3 ESXi hosts, it's fine, you can manage them separately. But when you have 10 or 20 or 25 or 30 or 40 ESXi hosts, which is very common in a medium-sized organization, and in large organization these hosts can go into hundreds, then it will be difficult for you to manage them separately. So for that reason, we use VCSA appliance. VCSA is this appliance, and here we are using HTML5 client to connect to VCSA. Here you can see the summary of VCSA. It is of version 5. It was last updated December 19. Currently there are no clusters, there are no hosts and no VMs here. Once we add these ESXi hosts, then you will see that it will show you how many hosts are managed by this VCSA. On this side, it will show you the progress of CPU, memory, and storage. Here are other menus. If once we have VMs added to VCSA, which are added to host, you will be able to see the VMs and the data store. For now, these are empty. And you can look at the VMs here as well. So this is where if I click here, it will show you the VMs. If I click here, it will show you the data store, and here it will show you everything that is in regards to the networking. Now one more thing that we need to look at this is the recent task. This recent task is very important. Everything that whatever happens to this VCSA, everything whatever happens to VCSA is basically recorded here in recent tasks. So recent tasks would show you everything. So once we add ESXi host, you will see the progress in the recent task. If it is successful, if it is successful or failed or warnings, everything will be shown in the recent task. So recent task is a good place to see for the progress of all the services or whatever commands that you're sending in VCSA. Now, so I'm going to minimize this so we can still see the recent task. Here it gives you some warnings saying that vCenter server health alarm. Warnings are fine in ESXi host or VMware or in any technology. Warnings are just to show you, and this warning is basically when this VSA was starting up, there was some issue. There was some use of resources, especially in this nested ESXi virtualized environment. And since we are in VMware Workstation, inside VMware Workstation we have ESXi host. Inside the ESXi host we have VCSA. So there was some health issue, but now it's fine. We can work with VCSA, so I can safely acknowledge this. Once you acknowledge this, it will go away. But if it persists, if there is still health issues, then it will come back again. Then later on we can look at it. Overall, VCSA health is good right here, and here it will show you more services once they are configured. So now let's start configuring VCSA. So very first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go to host. Now what is our task? Our task is to add these ESXi hosts. So these are the ESXi hosts that I'm going to add to VCSA. And the way we can add, so first of all, right click here on VCSA, and in this, first of all, we create a folder. Once we create a folder, you can name this where the data center is, so where the physical servers are. So if you're working for a company, that company has ESXi hosts, these ESXi hosts must be located somewhere in a data center. So these are physical ESXi hosts. So let's say the company that I'm working for, it has 2 data centers, one in Canada and the second one in US. So I'm going to create 2 folders here. Folders are basically to organize your environment, so that I can add all the ESXi host under VCSA here. But once you create folders, they are better organized. I can go to also the folder and now create data center. Data center is the object under which you can create you can add ESXi hosts. So my data center, this data center is located in Toronto. So here I'm just gonna add Toronto data center. This is my Toronto data center, and I've got another data center located in US. So that will be New York data center. So I'm just gonna name this NY data center. And if I expand this here, this is my Toronto data center, this is my New York data center, and on the recent tasks you can see that all the tasks that I created a folder, it is recorded here in recent task. It is then I created a data center. Now without the data center you cannot add any host. So now I'm ready to add hosts 01 and 02 in Canada. In Toronto data center, whereas I'm gonna add ESXi 3 to my New York data center. So in here, all I need to do is right click on this and add host. As you can see, this add host option is not available on the folder. So on folder you cannot add a host. You need to have at least 1 data center, and you cannot add even the host on a folder. So folder doesn't have that option. The only place where you can add a host is data center. So I'm just gonna go here, add host, and in this I'm just going to name this. If your ESXi hosts are properly added to DNS server in your Active Directory, then you can use the name of the server. Otherwise you can directly use the IP address as well. So let me see that if I can add go by name. So you can if name is not working for you, you can safely go by IP address. So 360 cloud ESXi01. So this is the server that I'm gonna add, and next. And now I'm gonna use the password of ESXi01, which is the root account that I have. So the root account password is password1 exclamation sign in my case, and I'm going to click next. If the username and password is correct and you are able to access this server, then you will get this certificate option. You need to click yes on this. It will show you the summary of the host. It will show you how many VMs are there and the version of the server and everything. All you need to do is next. Here you can add licenses. Since the ESXi version that we are working on, it's an evaluation version, which is fine for us. There are 859 days remaining. If we would have had a license, then we can add a license. For now, we can go with the evaluation version. This is a lockdown mode. Lockdown mode is basically used once the server is added to VCSA, if I enable a lockdown mode, then you won't be directly able to log into ESXi host, meaning you shouldn't be logging on to ESXi host directly, with HTML client, like when we connected to ESXi host verify in the beginning of the video. So lockdown mode is important. When the server is added to VCSA, you should put it in the lockdown mode. You can also use the strict mode. In strict mode, I mean, when you select the normal mode, you can still disable the lockdown mode from DCUI access. You can directly go in here. This is known as DCUI. You can disable the lockdown mode and then connect directly to ESXi host. You might be thinking that what is the need of directly connecting to ESXi host if it is added to VCSA? There might be a situation where VCSA is not available for some reason and you still need to connect to ESXi. Then you can still go to here in here directly DCUI access. You can connect to DCUI, log into the server, disable lockdown mode, and then directly connect to ESXi host. So for now, I'm not going to do, I'm just going to select normal, but you can also restrict the DCUI access as well. So you can completely stop DCUI with a strict mode. In some companies where you have a strict policy that if the server is added to VCSA, nobody should be able to directly go into ESXi host, you can go to this mode as well. So I'm going to go to this normal mode and next. And here the location will be Toronto data center. You can move into since we started with here, so the only option that I have is a Toronto data center. Later on, if you need to move it somewhere else, you can move it to New York data center as well. Here we are ready to add, and here on the recent task you should be able to see that now it is adding the ESXi host. At the same time, I'm gonna add the second ESXi host as well. So add host, and in this case I'm just gonna use the server name cloud ESXi02. Make sure that these are added to DNS so that it can resolve properly. If it doesn't, then you need to go into the DNS and register these addresses. So here I'm just gonna go to add, and once this is added, so click next on this, and you will get you won't get this certificate if the username and password is wrong, or if your VCSA is not able to access the ESXi host. We don't have a license. I'm just gonna select the normal mode and next on this, VM location, and done. So this is the second ESXi host will be added. This is 90% added, and this is now I'm gonna add the third ESXi host on DC in this. So now before adding this, I just wanted to show you that how do you how do you configure the DNS setting. If let's say if DNS is not configured, you can go to your server, Windows Server. So actually your domain controller. So I'm just gonna go here, go to domain controller. Within the domain controller, you just need to go to tools and go to DNS. In DNS, you need to just make sure that the three names are properly registered. So you can go to forward lookup zone, your DNS, and in here I have ESXi1 and ESXi host, but I don't have ESXi3. So if I don't have ESXi3, let's try to add this. Let's see if we can get an error message. So here I'm just gonna change this. Okay, so since I am using a full mode, so here let me add the third server. So where am I adding? So I need to just cancel this. I need to add this to New York data center, my third server. Later we will be adding to Toronto data center. Here I'm just gonna add the host, and this time I'm gonna use 360 cloud ESXi 03. Let's see if it can recognize. So use the root password, and so you're using a root password and root account and the password, and here let's add this. So here you cannot, because it is not able to understand the name. I can still go with the IP address. I'm just gonna go back and go with the IP address. So but instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add this to DNS. So in DNS all you need to do, right click here on in here and add a host record. So a host record will be the name of the server, 360 cloud ESXi 03, and the IP address. So make sure you have the right IP address. I'm just gonna go to the server, and in here the IP address is 195, and I'm gonna go back here and make sure that I have the right IP address. So this is fine. The IP address is here. Add host. So add host is added. This, I'm done with this. I'm just gonna go back to the server, and now I'm gonna try again. So once I go back here, this time it should recognize the name if the right DNS. So it did recognize the name with the DNS setting, and I click yes, next, and it's an evaluation license. This time in lockdown mode I'm just gonna keep it disabled, just to show you that what's the reason, what happens if you just keep it disabled. So here you are now. So we have added all 3D ESXi host here. In the recent task we should be able to see that we are adding the third ESXi host right here. Now one thing very important, that is that one very important thing is, if your DNS is not, you need to make sure that Vcsa DNS setting is properly configured in order to see the Vcsa, otherwise it will give you issues. So for that you need to go back to here and go into networking and make sure that your VCSA name is properly here and the DNS IP address is here. If these two settings is, if it is not your VCSA, if this setting is not here, then your VCSA will give you issues with the names. You won't be able to work with the name, and also you won't be able to add it to Active Directory. So make sure these two settings are here. In order to change the setting, you can edit this. You can use a proper name of VCSA, the name that is registered in DNS. So this is the same name that that you should find it right here. So this is my this is the VCSA that I'm talking about, 220. This is the VCSA right here. So you need to have a name here, a host record here, and the same name should be configured in here as well. So guys, this is all for this video. In this video what we did, we logged into VCSA and then we added the 3 hosts here. In the next video we are going to explore more settings. Thank you for watching this video. I'm just gonna change this to server, just to make sure our settings are proper. We have 3 hosts, we have 1 folder, we have separate folder created for 2 different locations. We have created a data center and added these hosts. Thank you for watching this video. So I'm just gonna make a smaller screen and